Toyoharu Tanabe, the Formula One technical director for Honda, stated that all the ups and downs and struggles of Honda's recent tenure in the sport were justified following Max Verstappen's title victory in Abu Dhabi. Honda will leave Formula One in 2022 as the newly founded Red Bull Powertrains company takes over the intellectual property and operation of the power units. So why are the Japanese engine manufacturers leaving the sport just after last year's monumental victory? The successful partnership with Red Bull, which ended in Max Verstappen winning the 2021 title, makes it easy to forget how awful Honda was performing even as recently as 2017. Honda suffered from a sense of pessimism during its last year with McLaren, and there was a desire in the boardroom to abandon the project. However, following a miraculous turnaround, it now does so as a global championship-winning project. When Honda's return to Formula One with McLaren was announced in 2015, both sides were thrilled with high hopes and conviction. However, the warning flags were there from the minute McLaren drove an interim car in the postseason Abu Dhabi test at the end of 2014, as its first hybrid F1 engine was flawed from the start. The MP4 29H 1x1 completed 5 circuits over 2 days but did not set a time. This was largely due to McLaren pressuring Honda to race a full year sooner than anticipated, leaving it woefully unprepared. And the outcome was a compromised design, with a compressor positioned within the V6 bank and hence smaller than its competitors, to achieve a tightly packed size zero concept for aerodynamic benefits. The end product was a severely underpowered and unstable engine and a disappointing 2015 season. Sticking to this approach for 2016 meant Honda could at least improve its reliability, but the inherent lack of performance remained an issue that prompted a major restructuring for 2017. Honda knew that the new engine design, which mirrored Mercedes' approach with a split turbo and compressor, posed a risk because it was so new. However, it could not have anticipated the massive struggle that ensued. An oil tank problem that hadn't shown up on the dyno ruined pre-season testing. When that was resolved and the mileage count was finally increased, other, more basic issues arose, most notably with the MGU-H. Honda was already having trouble getting the high-revving MGU-H to work effectively, so it tended to run it at lower speeds for reliability reasons, which substantially weakened the engine's output. MGU-H difficulties were also to blame for what Honda's managing director, Masashi Yamamoto, calls the project's most difficult moment: numerous failures in Bahrain over a single weekend. After a few races, Honda was compelled to admit that the MGU-H could only handle 2 Grand Prix at a time. Honda revealed several modifications throughout 2017 in an attempt to improve its poor performance, but it was evident that McLaren was losing faith. Honda released an update during the Belgian Grand Prix, but not the complete step it had intended, due to a development schedule slip. Both cars retired from that race and the following one in Italy. After Monza, McLaren declared it was dejected and dissatisfied, indicating that the decision to split with Honda had already been decided. The McLaren-Honda partnership would finish the year with a dismal 133 points from 60 races. No poles, no wins, and not even a single podium. It fell far short of the lofty ambitions of recreating the McLaren-Honda domination of the early years, and Honda's desperation was evident during this time. The lack of confidence extended far beyond McLaren and Honda. Even Sauber turned their backs. Around the same time that the McLaren partnership was going down, Honda was informed by Sauber that an often forgotten deal to run Honda engines from 2018 would be cancelled. This was an embarrassing moment for Honda, and it was rejected by the weakest team left on the grid, which was running year-old Ferrari engines and was emerging from a financial quicksand that had nearly brought the team to its knees. The proposed Sauber deal came to an end right before the summer break, a few months before McLaren and Honda announced their split. Honda's F1 program's future was jeopardized as a result of this. The only way to maintain Honda in F1 would be to strike a deal with Toro Rosso, which would involve Toro Rosso abandoning its Renault contract. As a result, when the McLaren-Honda split was announced in Singapore, it wasn't a one-off event. Toro Rosso released Carlos Sainz to drive for Renault in 2018, and Renault released Toro Rosso from their engine contract in exchange, allowing Toro Rosso and Honda to announce a new engine deal. On the periphery of all of this, Renault and Red Bull effectively finalized their parting at the end of 2018, paving the way for a future Red Bull-Honda deal if Honda could demonstrate its competence. Honda needed someone to believe in its initiative, despite McLaren's and even Sauber's clear, public, and uncompromising vote of no confidence. Fortunately, by mid-2017, representatives from Red Bull had already bought into the improvements Honda was making beyond the still awful set of results. But before Helmut Marko and Christian Horner could begin cultivating a stronger relationship with senior Honda officials, another member of the Red Bull family had already saved the Honda project. Toast and his team, Toro Rosso at the time, were the unsung heroes. Honda's Toro Rosso season prior to collaborating with Red Bull is also easily forgotten. Toro Rosso went above and beyond by finishing 4th in Bahrain on the team's second start with Honda, surpassing what McLaren had done in the previous 3 years. Off the track, Toro Rosso emphasized complete transparency and urged Honda to be more daring and demanding. Rather than directing its engine supplier what to do, the team was much more open to compromises. Honda also got increasingly active in dealings with F1's decision makers, whereas previously, McLaren was in charge of all F1 FIA liaisons. Honda's switch to Toro Rosso was a breath of fresh air. It didn't show up in the form of a significant change in outcomes. Toro Rosso scored 3 points more than McLaren in 2017, but that was to be expected. After all, Honda was paired with a lesser midfield squad that was hit with a slew of grid penalties as Honda was pushed to produce new specifications as rapidly as possible. The first half of the year's performance and improvement had already proven to be extremely lucrative, convincing Red Bull to abandon Renault and fully commit to Honda. It also helped Honda establish a roadmap that senior personnel are sure would not have been possible with McLaren. Tanabe was hired as the technical director, while Honda automotive engineering icon Yasuaki Asaki was put in the head of development at Sakura. The Toro Rosso partnership had paved the way for a deal with Red Bull's flagship team the following year. It was a necessary alliance. Red Bull's relationship with Renault had fallen, and Mercedes and Ferrari were never viable alternatives. Nevertheless, the two companies forged an extremely powerful alliance. Sadly, the alliance is already coming to an end. Honda declared late last year that it would leave Formula 1 at the end of the current season, partly to devote its resources to developing electric road vehicle technology. Verstappen has already been the most appreciative of Honda's progress over the past year. The power unit doesn't necessarily drive very differently from the first Honda unit that I drove. It just has more power, says the Dutchman, and it's more reliable. Every year, you always try to improve every aspect of a car, whether it's the chassis, engine, or driver. Honda made a really good step this year. Verstappen is hesitant about whether the Honda engine is now the best on the grid, but he does praise the company's engineers. "I really enjoyed working with them," he says. "You can really see the passion and the motivation to do well. It has been really positive to have such people around us." Honda's reasons for leaving F1 are clearly not as straightforward as they appear, with a desire to cut costs and a marketing push to embrace a net zero future, likely as important as a desire to focus resources on future EVs. Ferraris, Mercedes, and Renault all seem capable of doing so while remaining in the sport. On the other hand, Honda's exit served as a wake-up call for the sport. It's difficult to justify racing high-powered petrol-engine single-seaters at an era when automakers are trying to show their green credentials. That explains why F1 has begun to explore synthetic fuels, also known as e-fuels, as a possible way to reduce emissions while keeping petrol engines, and why such moves have become more essential since Honda's revelation. Ironically, just as Honda's exit in 2009 paved the way for Mercedes' domination, its exit in 2021 might stimulate a push towards e-fuels, bringing Porsche or another Volkswagen Group brand into the sport, possibly supplying Red Bull. This is unlikely to happen until the new F1 powertrain regulations are implemented. Red Bull has identified a suitable solution for Honda power units in the meantime. The company has acquired Honda's Milton Keynes operation to become an engine manufacturer in its own right, albeit with Honda experts assisting for the next season. It is interesting to note that when Honda retired in 2008, the chassis it had funded, designed, and manufactured won the championship the following year. Could a powertrain that Honda largely funded, developed, and constructed win the 2022 title after Honda retires in 2021? That idea cannot be ruled out based on Verstappen's and Red Bull's current form. To be honest, you can't even rule out the possibility of Honda returning to Formula 1 in the future. Its immediate future may be centered on electric road cars, but you get the feeling that it will return when the sport has a technology that Honda has to invest in. Until then, it appears that the company will be able to celebrate going out on a high, at least for the time being. What do you think about Honda's decision to leave F1? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Also, if you're new to this channel, subscribe and click the notification bell to get notified when we upload more content. We will see you in the next one.